Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here, hope you're well, up at Barnstormer in Maidenhead once again, where today I'm going to be riding this. This is the F850 GS Rally Sport. Okie dokie. Let's jump on and I'll tell you what I think of it. So what an absolutely glorious day to be out on a bike. Spring has sprung, the blossom's out, absolutely beautiful. And sitting on this F850 GS Adventure feels a very familiar place to be. I'm very familiar with the Big Brother GS, both the 1200 and the 1250 now, having ridden both lots and being a 1200 owner myself. And looking at this cockpit, if you just put me here, I would say I was on a 1200 or 1250 GSA. Looks exactly the same, or pretty much exactly the same, with a few small minor differences. This machine's got the same lovely TFT display. Sat-nav mount is in a slightly different position to on its bigger brother. That's, I guess, one of the biggest differences, and the screen looks a little bit different. But the width of the bike has got all the road presence of its big brother GS Adventure, and the riding position as well feels very, very familiar. Well, the triangle between my feet, my backside of my hands, it just feels like a normal, when I say normal, the big GSA. So I rode the, I'll say little brother of this bike, the F850 GS, the standard one, a few months back. Really like that bike, and this came out a couple of months after. This is slightly more off-roady, slightly more Grand Tourer focus. Comes with some extras obviously over the GS, main thing being the bigger tank. This one carries 25 litres. I think the standard one is nearer 15. I'll check that and let you know. Also comes with better weather protection up front. We've got some additional bodywork to keep the worst of the wind off you. So that's these bits down here. Slightly different windscreen as well. Also comes with crash bars. And on this, which is the Rally Sport version, it also has spotlights as well. Has a slightly different seat, I think. So it comes in a few flavours, the F850 GS Adventure, the GS Adventure Sport, and the GS Adventure Exclusive, which have all different paint schemes as well, so take your choice, and slightly different pricing as well. But this is the daddy, the top of the range if you like, and it's got all the standard BMW electronic lovelies, including things like an up and down quick shifter, the dynamic suspension, engine mode pro, all that good stuff, which you can read about on the BMW website if you want to go into details. This particular review is very much going to be my first impressions review of the bike. I've literally just jumped on it, as you saw, and I just want to talk you through the practical items on this bike, the sorts of things you would look at if you were maybe going for a test ride on this bike. How does it stack up? So those nice people at Barnstormer have very kindly given me the bike pretty much fully fueled. I'm 1 bar down from full, and that means the bike is at its heaviest, so it's quite interesting to use the bike like that. Well, one of the things I noticed as I pulled the bike off the stand is it does feel pretty heavy. Unlike the Boxer engine GSs that have a very low centre of gravity, this has a slightly higher centre of gravity. So it's a bit ironic, even though the engine's a bit smaller, to me at least it feels a bit more difficult to shift around than its bigger brother. Not a problem if you're a big person. I'm not a particularly big person though, so for me that would be a problem. Of course, the big advantage of this over the bigger bikes, or one of the advantages, is its cost. It's an awful lot cheaper than the 1250 GS Adventure, and I'll go into on the road pricing when I do the walk around a bit later. So other practical measures as I'm heading up towards a faster road to check out what this wind protection is like. Things like the mirrors, standard BMW mirrors. We've seen these on all sorts of their bikes. They work really well. I've got a great view behind. They're rock steady, no vibration there. The engine is beautifully smooth as well, as whilst I'm talking about vibration, there are no vibes that I can detect at the moment. Really beautifully smooth. This amazing TFT that BMW does now, I think it's the best in the business, that one. Not only is it large, but it's clear, it works really well, it's kind of intuitive to use. You can operate it via the whiz wheel here on the left of the handlebar, which I think is the best controller on any motorcycle manufacturer. It just works. The screen on here is adjustable in a sort of manual way. You just grab this little lever here and you can pull it up and down like so. It's a bit strange that, in my view, a little bit of a retro step over the windy handle that you get on the bigger bikes, but it does work nonetheless, although the screen is quite small. I think if I was going for the rally version, I'd probably get the bigger screen off one of the other models. As I mentioned, riding position, very familiar, very GS-y, super comfortable. I've got a lower seat fitted to this one because I'm only a short chap at 5'8", and the bike feels really agile, and when I come to a halt I'll get my feet pretty much flat on the deck, so no problem on height of the bike. Yeah, I mentioned the bike felt, to me, a little bit heavier to move from the standstill off the stand than the bigger GSA, but I'll tell you what, when you're moving, this feels a lot lighter. I know it's cliche, but this is really agile. Quick shift works beautifully. Alright, let's get onto this faster road and just see what this wind protection's like then. Actually, even with a smaller screen, the wind protection is pretty good. These big extra bits of aero wings they put on here really do make a difference to the frontal area. And there's very little buffeting on me at all. In fact, I've got a little bit of buffeting on my shoulders. It's nothing too bad though, it wouldn't put me off at all. It's clean airflow. And I can feel that the wind is just whipping over the top of my head. Again, I'm not in dirty air there at all. In fact, I could ride with the visor up, even with this little screen, and still hold a conversation and be able to breathe even at sort of motorway speed. So the wind protection, absolutely cracking on it, no problems there. And as you'd expect, the bike feels beautifully stable when you're on the dual carriageway. So mile munching, if that's your thing, on motorways, no problems at all. Now this one, as I mentioned, is the top spec Rally Sport. So this comes with the fancy suspension, which is the semi-active stuff that you get on these bikes these days. And I won't bore you with the technical details, mainly because I don't know what they are, but suffice it to say, it feels lovely when you ride along on it. Lovely smooth ride. It's working out the optimal suspension settings based on how I'm riding the bike as I go. And it just feels planted. So I'm pretty impressed with this wind protection actually. I feel far more protected than I do on my own GS. I've got the 1200 GS and I'm definitely in more dirty air when I'm riding that on the motorway. Alright, so much for faster roads. Let's go and try what she's like in a bit more of an urban environment. Let's head over to Marlow, somewhere where it's always busy, try through a bit of traffic. Yeah, really nice machine through the corners actually. Just feels natural and balanced. Like it very much. Engine's got quite a nice note to it actually, when you wind her up in particular. Just as I was coming along the last bit of that dual carriageway there, I didn't get it on film, but I wound her up a bit, and there definitely is a noticeable lack of grunt at the top end compared to its big brother, the 1250 GSA. But you've got to be doing pretty silly speeds before you notice that. But if you're going to be taking your GSA on a track, then maybe you want to do the 1250. But for normal everyday riding, this is absolutely fine. Gearbox changes is beautifully smooth. Clutch is lovely and light. Oh, nicely done. Right, I've got nothing behind me. Let me just test the brakes on here. Front brakes, yeah, work great. Let me just try the back. Yeah, backs work really well as well. Strange enough, on this BMW, we've got Brembo calipers, like they used to do, whereas on the 1250s these days, they've gone with haze. So not sure why we've got a Brembo on here. Strange, no doubt to do with contractual reasons, whatever. But regardless, they work absolutely fine. Right, let's get to some busy streets and see what she's like in traffic. One of the things I love about the big BMW GS Adventures is their road presence. And I have to say, this isn't lacking in that at all. As I say, if you were just thrown on this, having ridden the bigger GS Adventure, you'd think you were still on it, because the front of it seems exactly the same size. It is absolutely massive thanks to that big fuel tank. But that means you do have great road presence. People see you coming. And again, on this particular variant, the Adventure Sport, you also get spotlights as standard down there on the crash bars. Another way that just helps people see you on the road. So here I am, actually my feet, I'm on the balls of the feet, look, with the seat at its lowest position. Lots of adjustment on this seat. Again, I'll go through the details when I go through the walk around, but I think the lowest setting is something like 830mm, which is what I've got this on at the moment. And for me, at 5'8" with a 32-inch leg, is absolutely fine. It doesn't feel ponderous, or when I come to a stop like I'm going to drop it or anything like that. Oh man, it's a beautiful day. It's one of those days that makes you feel glad to be alive. Fueling at slow speed seems nice. No issues, no jerkiness. Actually not quite as busy down here as it usually is. But no issues, as I say, at slow speed, nice and balanced. If you've got to ride it in traffic, you'd have no problems. If you've got a long commute to work that involves a bit of motorway and some town, then this would be a fab bike for that. What a gorgeous scene. Sometimes you fail to recognise how nice the places you live in are, don't you? And you just get used to them because you're there so much, but it is lovely around here. The River Thames in all her glory gives me a chance to stand up on the GS Adventure, and beautifully balanced in the standing position. Feels really natural. Sadly, I'm not going to be able to take the bike off-road, even though this is the slightly more off-road focused of the F850 range, because it's not my bike and there's nowhere to go off-road around here. But I've no reason to believe it would be perfectly adequate if that little test of standing up was to be anything to go by. The balance on the bike is beautiful. Alrighty, I'm going to head on back towards one of my favourite places, park the bike up, and I'll show you around the bike and talk you through the spec in the usual way. So just coming up to one of my favourite places on the planet. This is Waltham Airfield here on the right, which is where I fly from. Usually things of interest going on here if you like aeroplanes. Great place to come. There's also a big car park, so I'm going to do a walk around. Oh, a lovely day for flying today. Who's up? Lots of planes out actually. Everybody's off visiting out for lunch somewhere. Anyway, over here is a great spot to do a bit of a walk around, so let's stick her over here in the car park and let's show you around the F850 GS Adventure. Nice and easy to find neutral, stand easy to find, quite a short stand on this, and this is keyless, so to turn her off you can either press the power button, which is sort of hidden behind the sat-nav mount, which is a bit odd, or you can hit the stop button in the usual way. Right, there we go then. So here she is then, the GS Rally, the F850 GS Rally. As I say, this is the sport version. So with the sport you get the I think you get these lights are an additional add, but with the Adventure generally you get things like these crash bars, and the pannier mounts for the big metal panniers, and also on the sport version here you get the fancy version of the semi-active suspension, which we can see here. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let me get out the phone and I'll talk you through the spec in the usual way. Right, here we go then. Hopefully you can see that okay. Let's just open the visor for a bit of air. Let me show you some of the detail of the bike then. This is the paint scheme on the F850 GS Rally. Slightly different to the Big Brother Rally. Not sure if I prefer this or the 1250 in terms of its paint scheme. There's those crash bars we talked about. The other thing you get with the Rally, of course, are these splendid gold rims that look absolutely lovely. I think they're also on the exclusive version as well, the gold rims. Yeah, very, very nice indeed. Alrighty, let's talk you through the spec then, tell you what we're dealing with. So it's an 853cc two-cylinder engine, parallel twin, of course. Here we go. Let's show you that. Of course, this being a parallel twin means the centre of gravity is a little bit higher to what I'm used to with the boxer engine BMWs, so a bit more difficult to get off the stand, as I mentioned. In terms of power, 70 kilowatts, or if you're in the old money like me, 95 horsepower at 8,250 RPM rather. So plenty of power, 92 newton meters of torque at 6,250. Again, this is one of those bikes you don't ride it thinking what I need is more power. Let's look at those brakes. I mentioned it had Brembos on the front. Here we are. It's actually got 305mm discs on the front there with two pot Brembos, and then on the back we've got a single Brembo again. There we go, and that's on a 265mm disc, of course, with ABS and all that game. Suspension, front 43mm upside down forks, and the rear, well, what BMW on their website call stereo swing arm, which basically means it's not a single-sided one, complete with directly hinged WAD central strut, spring-based hydraulically adjustable, rebound, stage damping and adjustable. So goodness knows what all that means, but it's fancy suspension and it works a treat and it's adjustable is all I would say there. Seat height, 875 millimeters is the standard seat. 860 is on the height on the non-adventure, and as I say, it is pretty adjustable on here. You get different seats and so on, and I think I've got this down to 830, which is manageable for me. Weight 244 kilograms wet, so quite heavy. Standard non-adventure bike is 229, so this is quite a bit heavier than the non-adventure. Tank capacity 23 litres of usable volume, so it's pretty massive, and that's what gives it its distinctive look at the front end, this bulbous sort of rhinoceros look, which I really like, and the sort of on-road presence. The standard bike, by the way, I said I'd check it, that carries 15 litres, so this is considerably more. Electronic, switchable ABS, switchable traction control, riding modes Pro, it's got rain, road and dynamic, and then you can get Enduro Pro as well if you go for the Pro pack of the riding modes, LED lights front and rear. It's got a 12-volt power socket down the front here. One of my little bugbears actually with BMWs, here it is, it's one of these sort of DIN sockets. Why don't they just put USB sockets on? I don't know why they don't do that this day and age. You can buy little adapters, which is what I've done with my GS, so that's easily fixed, but an odd one. What else can I say? Dynamic ESA we talked about, 6.5-inch TFT, which is absolutely cracking, and the price, according to the website, from 10,600, and the standard GS, the non-adventure, starts at 9,875, so for about 900 quid you're getting quite a lot extra on this. Not only the bigger fuel tank, but the crash bars, slightly higher ride height, fancy graphics, etc, etc. Loads of accessories available, seats, exhausts, LED indicators if you want them, and there we go. What else to say about it? I think that's pretty much it. Oh, the other thing of course you get with this that you don't get with the standard bike is that increased weather protection, and these are basically these extra bits of fairing that have been added, which really do make a difference as well. Anyway, there we go. So that is the F850 GS Adventure. I think it's a handsome looking beast, and I'm really enjoying riding it. Let's jump on and ride it some more. Alright, so a bit of a haul off the stand. Let's bring her alive again, and then we watch the graphics on the screen do its thing. I never get tired of watching that. Absolutely brilliant. Okay, stand up. Bike does come with a centre stand, by the way, worth mentioning. So many bikes don't come with those these days. Right then, let's just take this opportunity to thank the guys at Barnstormer once again for letting me borrow the bike and bringing you this review. If you've not been up to Barnstormer in Maidenhead, they've got an amazing setup up there. Well, not only is it a great showroom with all the latest and greatest BMWs available, but they've also got coffee and free biscuits, so well worth a visit. Tell them I sent you, they might do you a good deal. Having said that, this bike is more tricky to move around off the stand than its bigger brothers. It feels a lot lighter on the move. Not that the 1250 feels heavy, but this is just a lot more agile once it's moving, and I like that about the bike. So let's get down to the nitty gritty then. What is there about the big bikes that they have over this, and what is there to not like about this? Well, very little really. I guess at the very top end, at very high speeds, then the big bikes definitely have more go. But how important is that to you when you consider the sort of cost saving you're looking at? As I say, around about 10-11 grand for one of these. I suppose once you've spec'd it up with all the bits you want, you're going to be spending probably 13, 14. Whereas the 1250 spec'd up, you're going to be looking at 18, 19. So considerable saving. When you're riding the bike, it looks and feels just like the big bikes. You've got all the same electronics, all the same good stuff. How does it compare to its competitors? I suppose the competitor that leaps to mind are things like the Triumph Tiger 800, a bike that I absolutely love. I think I possibly prefer the Tiger engine. I just love triple engines. This of course having the parallel twin. But it is a nice unit, it's nice and smooth, don't get me wrong, and it sounds nice. Let's go through this tunnel and see if we can show you. It's got a nice low rumble about it. But if it was my money and it was a choice between the Triumph and this, I would go for this. And the primary reason I'd go for this over the Triumph is just that view you get here. On the Triumph Tiger, it looks like it's not properly finished. It's a bit of sort of scaffolding-y, and there's like holes through the fairing, and it just doesn't have the same sort of look about the cockpit. Now I know that's might be a bit of a silly reason to you, but if you're going to be spending a lot of hours on a bike looking at this cockpit, I want it to look nice. And as I said before, there's no better looking TFT screen than the one that you get on BMWs these days. Plus, I love the way that if you get the nav 6 on here, it integrates with that as well, and you can control them both via the whiz wheel. A brilliant feature, and something that I don't know why other bike manufacturers don't do. Actually, having a sat nav that's controllable from the handlebars is very, very useful. So just trying to think of things that I don't like about the bike. I guess it's just its handling off the stand. It does feel quite heavy. Other than that, I can't think of anything. Maybe that electrical socket, but again, minor point. You can get an adapter from Nippy Norman's that will change that to a USB socket, a dual one. I've got one of those on my bike. Maybe that screen adjustment is a bit trumpery, but again, it's not a deal breaker, is it? So yeah, if you're in the market for a big old adventure type bike for doing some big miles on, definitely check out the BMW F850 GS Adventure. Really nice bike. Alright, that's it for now. Hope that's been of some interest. Look forward to speaking to you next time. Until then, this has been the Missing and Fly. Cheerio.